Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way YouTube page, X page, and Facebook page as well. My name is Ryan McGinley. Tonight, I'm delighted to be joined by Tony Haggerty, who I was with at the game this afternoon. A little bit of a belated show this evening, but we thought better late than never. Get all the work done, get the player ratings up, get everything sorted, and then we both do the briefing from the house, which I think will probably be better off in terms of connection anyway. So I don't think anybody will be complaining. Besides, we're talking about another 3-0 win, another win for Celtic in the Scottish Premiership. That make that 3 wins from 3, another clean sheet. Celtic haven't conceded a goal yet in the league. Kasper Schmeichel had 1 save to make in the whole game, which is a great habit to be getting into. Tony, before I ask you for your sort of first thoughts that come to mind, I would just like to bring up what is on the bottom of the screen. If you would like to support us just a little bit extra, it's completely optional, but support our work just a little bit extra by joining our YouTube members channel. It's just £2.99 per month, and you'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. If you want to make sure and be guaranteed that all of your comments will make it onto the screen, then please join us on the YouTube members. We really do appreciate everybody's support on this YouTube page. We appreciate the support on the website too, but if you would like to support us and contribute just that little bit more, then we would really, really appreciate it, obviously, if you can. Tony, 3-0, clean sheet, 3 goals, the midfielders are scoring, and even right backs are scoring. What else is good in the land of Celtic at the moment? It's all pretty rosy at present, isn't it?
On the park, absolutely brilliant, Ryan. There's another game that was done and dusted when Hatate's wonderful strike hit the back of the net. Half an hour after Callum McGregor's wonderful strike hit the back of the net. And that midfield triumvirate today, people maybe thought would be some kind of Matt O'Reilly type hangover. Bernardo was excellent today as well. And there was lots of really good performances. McGregor, Hatate were top drawer. Alistair Johnson was excellent. Liam Scales, the much maligned Liam Scales, was terrific today. Have to applaud Liam Scales today as well.
A couple of times in that game that we looked at each other and said he's having a really, really good game here.
He's having a stormer, yep, indeed. And as I say, on the park, great. Off the park, we still wait. We've got 5 days, as we spoke about, pre-match. But the manager had another kind of wonderful after-match press conference, Ryan. I believe you clipped up the comedic moment where some unfortunate gentleman's mobile phone went off and he took it in good part, didn't he? But we'll get into that. But really, on the park, in terms of Celtic putting games to bed, they're going about their business with a gusto and a zip and a vim and a vigour that, they're getting themselves 2 goals in front, and you just can't see teams coming back from that when that happens. If you're being really cruel, you could say the game was finished after McGregor scored the first goal, but St Mirren still had plenty of time to come back into the game. But 156 seconds, Ryan, has gone, and Callum lashes that into the bottom corner and steps up to the plate like all captains do, leads by example. And I thought him and Hatate, especially in the first half, were imperious. We were shaking our heads, weren't we, just thinking, Hatate. I said to you, and you said something to me, I said, you're watching the best midfield in the country. And I said, Callum McGregor's the best midfielder. And then you turned to me and said, but Rio Hatate's the most talented. 2 things can be right at the same time. And I believe that both to be the case. And today they showed why.
In my opinion, Hatate's inconsistency and going with his injuries as well, because he has picked up quite a few hamstring injuries in the past couple of years. Hopefully we've seen the end of that now, but those are the only things stopping him from being in Matt O'Reilly's situation just now, going through a medical at Brighton down south. I know for a fact Rio Hatate wants to make that move down south at some point, but he's going to have to work for it, and performances like today will help him in that quest, but he's going to have to do that all season. He's going to have to compile a portfolio of consistency from now. I think you're going to see Hatate playing for himself but playing for the team at the same time, and both can help and both can go hand in hand. I think you're seeing the sort of revenge tour of Rio Hatate so far this season. He is really, especially today in the first half, I thought he really took it out on St Mirren. I think maybe there's a wee bit of pent up anger from Hatate that he's not the one that's getting that move potentially down south. He's got to go and show it, and he did show it today, and fair play to him, because he did step up and was counted for.
Watch that finish. That's a difficult skill. The ball coming, beautiful goal. Johnston flighting it to the back post, cushioned header by Maeda, has a glance and sees his compatriot and knocks it down. It's waiting to be hit, Ryan. But my goodness, the technique with your so-called swinger of a foot, as they would say, and he buries it. Game over, 33 minutes. That's a clinching goal. St Mirren aren't coming back from that, I'm sorry. And, the actual technique involved in drilling that in, getting that power and that accuracy is incredible, and few players can do that. That's what Hatate's got in his locker. But credit to both Johnston and Maeda for their part in that goal. And also, we spoke about this after the game as well, didn't we? In the press room. Loved what Bernardo brought today. And this guy can play because he's came through the Benfica graduate system, right? So technically, that's not in question. But I love what Bernardo did for the team today. He did the dirty work, didn't he? He let those two get forward. And those two got forward to great effect in that first half. But there was a poise and a balance about him. And you pointed out at one point he ran and then had a sliding tackle and just, that kind of work ethic that the manager likes. And, so loving that from Bernardo. And then to compound it even more, loved what Thiago Holm brought today. Mm-hmm. That cameo. You just got an uncanny knack of being able to protect a football. And I believe in both O'Reilly, in Bernardo and Thiago Holm, I think Celtic have two players that are about to bloom and about to burst onto the scene for Celtic this season. Might be slowly with the minutes that they get, but I tell you what, they'll make a contribution, because I can see deep down within the two of them lieth footballers, real craftsmen, technicians, and I'm hoping that they get more minutes. But that doesn't negate the fact that I still want Celtic to sign players in the next 5 days, midfielders as well. But for me, the biggest position is still centre back for me. But that's something we'll cover, and the manager spoke about it. So we'll talk about that.
Do you want to go through the goals? And I want to bring up a bit of a generalisation of the 3 goals. All 3 goals are well worked. They're all really good, and they're really good team goals. But all 3 of those goals come from assists by the wingers on the park this afternoon. McGregor's goal is passed into he's passed into that position by James Forrest, who continues to defy whatever. He's just, I thought it was another solid performance for him. His game has changed. I mentioned that in the player ratings that are available on the website. His game has changed. He now picks and chooses what runs he goes on, but when he does, his decision making, because of that, his decision making has improved tenfold, and he's so effective still. I'm enjoying this sort of Indian summer that James Forrest is having, and it's doing his career justice, in my opinion, as well. The fact that he's got this consistency, no injuries, good performances, he's an able person. I don't think he'll kick up a fuss if he goes on the bench for a couple of games, because he knows he'll come on and he'll make an impact. So I do like to see that. The second goal comes from Daisen Maeda with a lovely header down to Rio Hatate. Tremendous finish. I'll be watching that goal quite a few times in the coming days. And then Alistair Johnston's goal just comes from great wing play by Nicholas Kuhn, who by all accounts didn't train at all this week, or he trained very, very little. He came into the team and he didn't look like he missed a beat at all. So 3 goals, all being made by the wingers. That bodes so well. That wasn't the case for a lot of last season, but the wingers are contributing to goals, and that's great to see, isn't it, Tony?
6 goal contributions from Kuhn in 4 games. That's what we're saying, yeah?
Yep.
So 1.5 a game, if you can have that. But that's the average. I'm taking that all day long, Ryan. He was out supposedly with a kind of back niggle, but came on, and we were saying that he didn't take the nip at not playing, came on and made a valid contribution. And we're liking that partnership, and with that Alistair Johnston, Nicholas Kuhn down the right-hand side, that's given us a lot of joy and a lot of delight, and we're smiling, we're nodding an appreciation of those two down that. They remind me of, remember, early Jackie Mac, Simon Donnelly. Well, maybe you won't remember Tommy
I'm going
Burns'
to nod
team,
my
but
head and say yes.
yeah, but the way they were functioning, they were very creative, and they had a telepathic understanding down that right hand side, and they tuned into each other's game. So I'm pleased with that. That's a part of your team that's functioning very, very well, and long may it continue. You just don't want to say anything that'll put the markers on it. So touch wood, but that's something we've been watching develop, isn't it, right, in the past 4 games, and we're seeing it, and they're slowly but surely starting to develop that understanding. And good on AJ getting into the box and tucking away your man's cutback, and taking it like a striker, as we said, and
It was a great finish.
it was a great
really
finish,
good
and
finish.
Adamida would have been proud of that, and lots of people having their say about Adamida today. I'll tell you what, Ryan, I thought that was a player trying too hard to impress and
He's
get
trying
off
to
the
force
mark
it.
again. But what he did do, and what he will do, he will buffet defenders around. He will knock them about. He will run the channels. He will hold the ball up. He will be an out ball for you. And his link-up play was good. Sometimes it was a wee bit, his touch was missing, but it's there in abundance, Ryan. You can see that if you just watch him and you think, you know what, you're another one who will come to the fore in this Celtic team, and you realise exactly why the manager brought him back. Touch deserted in front of goal, fine, that'll come. He's still a wee bit rusty, but listen, had he been signed when he should have been signed, he'd be right up to speed by now, and I
Starting
think
to
he
sound a
would
wee
have.
bit like Brendan Rodgers here, Tony. Talking about they shouldn't be in this position. We will.
Yes.
Don't worry, guys. We will talk about that press conference. Because I think everybody's watched it by now. It seems as if everybody's watched it, but it's true. It's true. If Adamida was brought in before the season started, because he did have a very stop-start pre-season with Norwich, which couldn't have helped his fitness. So if you had him a couple of weeks earlier,
for me it's coming, Ryan. You can see it. I just looked at him and I thought,
I'm not
okay,
concerned at all.
But there was things he did today, and he was like, holding people off, just big, powerful, and strong. And I was just like, you know what? You'll do for me. You'll come good. I've no qualms, no worries about that. And you know what else, Ryan? Celtic have scored a lot of goals this season, right? Not one of them has been by the centre forward. Maeda was the makeshift centre forward last week, okay? But he's traditionally a wide man, right? Kyogo hasn't scored and Ida hasn't scored. Tells you there's goals in this team, tells you there's creativity, it tells me that the manager was right. He doesn't need a striker to score 40 goals a season if others chip in. And I like that. First thing Kyogo did, one of the first things he did when he came on was slam a 1-on-1 off the goalkeeper. And you turned to me and said, I wish he would get off the mark. And I said to you, maybe he's waiting until next week. And you just
Maybe they both
you just laughed and said, well, that would be the optimum time. And you wouldn't put it past him. You wouldn't put it past Adamida or Kyogo to get off the mark in next week's game, depending on who starts. But I'm still happy with my strikers. Normally you would think if your strikers aren't scoring, it'd be cause for concern. It's not cause for concern because there's goals all over this team. AJ gets on the score sheet today by waltzing forward. Rio Tati, Callum McGregor. I mean, Callum McGregor's 2 goals this season are goal of the season contenders already. And we're not even out of August.
Yeah, and both Fatati's goals this season have been good too. So they're helping while the forwards are still fine tuning their tools or fine tuning their shooting boots or whatever. The midfielders are taking up that role and that opportunity to get goals, and that's great to see in the wingers too. The wingers are making goals for players. You've got defenders scoring 2. Liam Scales scored in the first game of the season. It's good that they're doing that, but at the same time, you will eventually want to see your forward scoring, and I think there's no better time than next week against Rangers. And you've got 2 strikers that have got a habit of scoring against Rangers in big moments. So, it's down to those 2 basically, isn't it, Tony?
And see if you're Rangers, that's a cause for concern, is it not? That they haven't opened their account domestically. So And moving forward, I'm not worried that neither of them will, or both of them will continue to draw blanks, shall we say, in front of goal. It's just not possible because this team's, creating. And, so liked a lot of what was on the park today and what was functioning about Celtic today. Not a lot malfunctioned. So I'm happy. But in that sense, that's fine. But we still need players, Ryan, because there's loads of improvement in this team. Team are playing really well. The manager's got them where he wants them, and they are swatting teams aside. But on Thursday, you will take the step up in class, or you will find who you're going to play in the Champions League, and you will need players for that, a calibre of player, a quality of player, to be able to cope with teams. The way you do to domestic opposition is the way teams will try and do to you when you raise the bar and you raise that level. So that's why we need players to come in. I'm hopeful for 4. I'd settle for 3. We shall see what happens, Ryan. But the manager was asked by myself in the context of the season, how big a week is this with the transfer window, the Champions League draw, and the Rangers game coming up, and he gave a very full answer, didn't he?
He certainly did. We're gonna split up this video into 2 sections, and we've kind of spoke about the game, and I think we've spoke about everything that we need to speak about. Is there maybe the last point before we get on to the press conference is maybe talking about Cameron Carter-Vickers, who I think did have a bit of a shaky game this afternoon. I think it's fair to say that now. His default is a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I would have given him a 6 at a push, I think, today. I did give him a 6 out of 10 in the player ratings. Yes, he kept a clean sheet, but I just thought some of the stuff that he was doing, and he did it last week, and I not gave him the benefit of the doubt, but I was like, okay, it didn't cost anything, but I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern emerging with, I don't know if there's a lack of, a lack of confidence in what he's doing at the moment, or it just seems as if he's making errors, and these are errors that will get capitalised on by better teams. It didn't cost Celtic today, but I think in the long run, especially in the Champions League, and I do expect him to lift his game in the Champions League because he has done it before, but it was a bit shaky today. Would you agree with that, Tony?
I flagged it last week, and I said there was things creeping into his game that were very uncharacteristic. It's another uncharacteristic game from Cameron Carter-Vickers today. I think it's fair enough to say that. That's not a criticism. These are observations on certain players who, by his high bar, he's fallen
Extremely
below it,
high bar.
hasn't he? Yeah, exceptionally high bar.
Yeah, unbelievably high.
It's noticeable when he drops below that, and he's dropped below that. To my opinion, the past 2 games, people saying he's had a bad start to the season. I'll give him last week and this week as the 2 games where, like you, he wasn't Cameron Carter-Vickers 8.
I'd probably say at Easter Road as well, though. I would actually go as far to say the 3 goals, the 3 games.
I don't know so much about that. But, well, we had that one moment where he got skinned, didn't he? And the guy crashed the ball off the bar. So, and the Carter-Vickers have all would have cleaned
it's a high bar. Out. That's the thing. When these mistakes are made, you are going to...
So
and
you
he's a
latch
victim of
onto
his own
that.
success.
Yeah, you latch onto that because he's so reliable and has been. So that's fine. I can live it, Ryan, if it doesn't cost you. I'm talking about next week. I think we'll, he'll be back to, well, hopefully we'll be back to his normal self.
We're nitpicking, guys. We are nitpicking, but that's the way it is.
But that's not, as I say, we're not having a go at him. We're mentioning the fact that there's been some uncharacteristic errors of judgment. So, and other people are noticing that as well. So I think it's fair. It's a fair point to bring that up. You're asked to critique the match. You're on here doing the post-match analysis, so that's part of our post-match analysis. So, I'm not saying he's not morphed into a terrible player overnight. You've just noticed that high bar that he set past couple of games for me, just slightly shaky, but not the Cameron Carter-Vickers that we know and love, and has been the role model of consistency the past couple of seasons. But it's like everything else. I think next week he'll be back to his normal self because adrenaline carries you through, and he's a big game player. And so I thought Scales, of the two central defenders today, Scales took the plaudits, and because he actually worked in tandem with Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Scales dealt with everything really well. There was one point the two of them nearly collided, Ryan, but I think the communication was there, and Carter-Vickers told him to deal with it. Yeah, so he dealt with it, and then there was an absolute textbook piece of defending when Liam Scales slid in and cleared the ball, and it would have been a certain St Mirren goal. So it gets a tough time sometimes by ourselves, but Liam Scales today I thought was terrific, and of the two, it was Liam Scales 8 today for me, and normally it's the other way around. So that I think you've got to give praise when it's deserved, and you've got to sort of turn around and say, okay, you've had your, I would say, temporary wobble, Ryan, for Cameron Carter-Vickers. But
it's a wobble, it's a slap, but it hasn't cost anything.
Form is temporary, class is permanent. So
you've tripped over, but you haven't spilt your drink, is basically the analogy that I would use for Cameron Carter-Vickers at the moment. He's fine. He will be fine. I expect him to put in an 8 out of 10 performance next week. He always turns up for the big games. That's the reason why he's on an even more extended deal than what he was on previously. That's why he got the 5.5 year deal when he signed in the middle of January in the transfer window. I think we should talk about the press conference, shouldn't we, Tony? It was the main. I mean, yes, there was a game of football that was played, but there was also a 12-minute tour de force of Brendan Rodgers at his very best. The only way that he can probably do it. He answered absolutely everything. And the thing that I like about Brendan Rodgers for me is that he is his own person. Yes, he is an ambassador for the club, but he's his own person, and he will call out things if he isn't happy with the way things are going. And he's well within his right because Celtic are playing really good football at the moment. He's doing his job on the park to make things tick. What he isn't getting off the park is the signings, and that was one of the things that he said that really did stand out to me was the comment about we shouldn't be going into the last week expecting big signings. We shouldn't, but that is the place that they're in. For me, that was a bit of a shot or a dig at the previous recruitment team of Mark Lawwell and Joe Dudgeon, in my opinion. That's the way I interpreted it. People might see it differently, but that was the way that I saw him speaking. I think he was saying it needs to be remedied, and I thought it would have been remedied already. We were talking about that over the summer, so I'm guessing it's after this window. You will see some changes in that department or some new faces in that department. But I thought it was a great press conference today, Tony. Do you agree?
Another shot over the bow, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he spoke like a man who seemed, underlying takeaway from me was he seemed like a man who was confident that things were happening or things were moving in the right direction and that he was going to get players. Now that might be misplaced, given the track record of those above him, but he didn't seem too perturbed or annoyed, because at one point he said, "We'll get the players in," didn't he? And and he did say that, and he didn't backtrack in it. So I'm, we've called him this for a while, box office Brendan. He was box office Brendan again today. He was just, and again he can say he's saber rattling if you want, but he is just telling people, right, we've got a week to sort this out. Shouldn't be in this position, but come the end of this week, if we sort it all out and things happen that I want to happen, we'll be in a very good place. Again, Ryan, this is all we've got to go on, the manager's words. And if he didn't feel that was going to happen, I think he would be far too tetchy. He wouldn't be as relaxed as he would be, would he? Cracking jokes and all that kind of stuff. I think there was something underlying there that Brendan Rodgers knows might be happening, could be happening in the next few days. We're hoping that's the case, but I just thought he gave the demeanour today that this is my football team. I've got them playing well. We're in a good spot. I get what I want. we're going to the next level here. We're going in this competition to compete, not participate, as he said before. But if he gets what he wants, then he knows that he can work his magic with the players that he brings in. So I don't know. I could be totally wrong in that. Celtic might not bring in any players, but he seemed to me to be a man who was holding a wee bit back there, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, he even said that himself. That was the last question, and I wanted to actually read that out. It's good that you said that. So he was asked why recruitment has taken so long in this window. The first sentence is very telling here, because he did hold back. He's better at this than he was at the first time around.
Yeah.
I think he wore his heart on his sleeve the first time around, and he's more measured. He even talked about that in Friday's press conference. He said, there are a number of things, but I won't go into it here. But it's definitely something. Having come back in and gone through 3 windows now, we have to put it right as a football club. We shouldn't have been getting into this last week in the position that we're in. That's the reality. However, that's something for us after this window. As I said, we'll get the players in that we want. We don't need to manufacture our own stress when there's no need. We don't need to do that. So we'll be calm this week. We'll look to get the players in that can strengthen us. That was quite bullish from Brendan Rodgers. He doesn't want to get involved in all of the outside noise that goes along with the transfer window, because there is a lot of noise in the transfer window. That's the way it is. That's the way it is in modern football. It's the same for basically every other club, at least in European football. They'll be expected to do some business if they've not already done so. The teams that are prepared, are in a unique situation that they don't need to go out and spend. But Celtic are in the position that many teams have found themselves over the past decade or so. They need to go and make some last minute signings because Matt O'Reilly has left the club. Matt O'Reilly's a massive chasm. There's a massive chasm in that team. It wasn't shown today, but you'll probably see it in European games and against some of the tougher opposition in the Premiership. He needs to be replaced. Brendan Rodgers said a couple of weeks ago that if Matt O'Reilly was to go, he needs to bring 2 players in to replace him. I am hoping that is still the case. I think with the fact that Arne Engels and Matthias Bogutz have been linked in the past week or so, if that was to be the 2, I think there wouldn't be anybody complaining about the business done, because you're getting goals, but you're also getting creativity from each player respectively. But recruitment has taken too long, and I don't think you'll see that again. I think this is a real breakout moment for Brendan Rodgers. You're going to have to keep him happy, and you're going to have to. The club are going to have to buck up their ideas, in the recruitment department.
I think it's a watershed moment in terms of recruitment for Brendan Rodgers.
That's exactly the word I was looking for, Tony. Thank you.
And in terms of his tenure at Celtic, I think he will get maybe one of those 2 players that you mentioned. If they get both, then that's a real statement of intent, isn't it? But he spoke like a man who thinks that things are headed in the right direction, and he's called it out. The last couple of times he's spoken, he has said, "Okay, we've left it late, but it is time to get a shift on here." He bigged up the board for getting the Adamida deal done. He now has to say to the same people, "I need this, and this before Friday." Yep, it's late in the day, get all that, but they have to do business, Ryan. For me, a centre-back's a priority still as well. A centre-back and those 2 midfielders that you mentioned, I'd be very, very happy with for just now, to take us to January, and then we go again. But I think that's the whole type, as I say, go back to that, the watershed thing. They're going to rip that recruitment strategy up, aren't they? They're going to go back to the drawing board. Brendan Rodgers said it would need to be addressed. He said that on Friday. Something they're going to have a look at. And I think after this window, they'll look at that. They'll go through that with a tooth comb and a fine microscope and see, right, where can we improve? What can we do better? And he said himself that the situation isn't ideal, but it's when a lot of deals get done. The last 7 days, last few days of the transfer window. Again, it goes back to, do people have confidence in the Celtic board to get these deals over the line? No, they don't. But there's a different man at the helm, and I think he's pushing for a lot. And it would be brave people at the top of your tree to deny Brendan Rodgers at this moment in time what he wants from this transfer window.
to deny him again, really, after the first time
Yeah, well,
around.
okay. Yeah.
But you know, the Celtic board and the Celtic hierarchy, whoever you talk about, whether that's Peter Lawwell, Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay as well, they all knew what they were going to get when they brought Brendan Rodgers in. An elite level manager. We talk about it out almost every week on this podcast. He's an elite level manager, but he also demands to be backed in the transfer window. And if you don't back him in the transfer window, then you're going to hear about it from the manager in press conferences because he's his own man. And I think that's what especially Celtic supporters really like about him, is the fact that he does hold the club to account. He's like not an independent contractor, but somebody that's out with, you know, that yes, he gets on with the hierarchy. We know that. That's the reason why he's back. Yes, there was some bridges that were rebuilt prior to his return in 2023, but he does hold them to account, and that's good to see from the manager. I like to hear this, and I'm happy that he's confident that he's going to bring these players in. He's talking about the fact that there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done in this next week, in the next 5 days. You know, it's not even a full week. That window shuts on Friday at 11:30. Time is of the essence. You would be hoping that there is
They're on
there
it
is
now.
movement going on in the background right now, if not yesterday. It's got to be. You know, you're looking at Bogut's, who's playing for LAFC tonight. You're hoping that that's potentially his last game, and he'll be flying to Glasgow and almost straight after the game. Arne Engels, you're hoping that his game against Werder Bremen at the weekend was his last game for Augsburg, and you bring the two of them in. That's two players of genuine quality that are doing it right here, right now. Not has been players, are players that are showing it right now, 23 and 20 respectively. Young players that are only going to improve, and they're desperate to play in the Champions League. Get the two of those players through the door, and I think you'll start to see a real difference in the midfield. Yes, the midfield looked good today, but I think it can go even better. Imagine having the likes of Paulo Bernardo, maybe even Rio Hatate on the bench to bring off. Now that is squad depth for games. You know, they can pick and choose who's going to be starting and who's going to be benching. I don't imagine, if it was to be Engels or Bogut's or both, that they would go into the team straight away. But think about that as bench options. You know, Tomoki Iwata isn't on the bench. He wasn't on the bench today. Odin Thiago Holm is on the bench. He might even drop out of the bench when it comes to strength if these two players get brought in. All I just want to see is a bit of ambition in the next 5 days. I think that's what everybody wants to see. And Brendan Rodgers wants to see that as well. And the fact that he's vocal about it in press conference shows that he does care. Nobody's complaining about Brendan Rodgers not being invested or not being the Brendan Rodgers that we knew beforehand. He's very much invested. He's locked in completely, and he wants to take this club as far as he can. The board now need to show their hand, and they need to push it on and get to that next level. And the only way they can do that is to supplement the players that are already there with some quality in that midfield and at the back. If they do that, then anything is possible.
You know, Peter Law said that at the AGM that they want to provide, you know, a world-class team and a world-class operation and everything that they do. The only world-class thing about Celtic, the football operation right now, is the manager.
Yep.
Right? That's a fact. You can dispute that all you want, but it's a fact. And as I say, I think the optics in not giving Brendan Rodgers what he wants would be so bad, and the supporters just wouldn't stand for it. So, and I think he spoke today like a man who, there's machinations going on, there's something happening, and Celtic will announce something that will put smiles on the faces of the supporters in the next few days. Just the vibe I got from him today. As I say, I could be wrong in that, but he is trusting the people upstairs to get those deals done now that on the players that he's identified, and we know who he's identified, so it's over to them to bring them in and not fail him this time again, because I think he would feel, I don't know how he would feel, but I'm guessing he would feel particularly let down if he doesn't get what he wants. He's earned it, Ryan. He's earned it. And
he earned it last season, Tony.
Yeah, and he's earned it. He's earned it to have a crack at Europe and do what he wants to do with this team. Because on the park, it's functioning, it's doing well, but he wants to improve it. He wants to raise the standard again, not just domestically, but he wants to get into Europe and raise it there where it matters. It means the world to him. It means the world to be the guy that restores Celtic's. I've said this before. That call it bruised ego, battered pride, prestige, honour at that level, and that's the ambition that he wants for this football club. That's the ambition that you and I want for this football club. That's the ambition that those above him have to show the next 5 days to say, do you know what? Let's see where we can take this. Here's what you need. We'll provide you with what you need.
Take the hand.
And I know they've got forum. Yeah, I know they've got forum for not providing managers with what they need, Brendan included, but he's earned it. And by goodness, I've said this before, the supporters have earned it. They've played their part. They deserve it more than MD. And Brendan is speaking for the supporters. Always, always. He empathises with them because he's one of them too. Just happens to be the manager of the football club that we all love, and we all invest both your money and emotion into. And I think you would hear him on Friday if things don't go his way. And you would hear him big time. I mean, you'll hear the supporters big time anyway. But I think he would be quite rightly, bitterly disappointed and feel let down by if they don't bring in at least 2 players. You know, I'm hoping for 4. 3 would be good as well. But I think the least they can do is bring in 2. Even then, I still think that's too short of what he actually needs. But 2 midfielders, a centre back and a left back is my ideal 4, Ryan. If we're brass tacks on it all, but he's not putting a number on it because he doesn't want people to come back and say, you said 4, you only got X, and he's quite rightly.
That was another good moment today.
Swatted them aside, yeah, but he knows in his own mind what this team needs. How can you not trust this manager and say, okay, what do you need? I need this, this, and this. Well, go and get this, this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much that you could touch upon. You could touch upon the game and what Brendan Rodgers was talking about in terms of the control that they had in the game, scoring early goals. But I think the perfect way to sort of sign off this video is to talk about the player that is departing the club. It's looking like it's going to be made official in the next few hours. If not, then definitely tomorrow morning, probably at the latest, you would say. Matt O'Reilly, for 3.5 seasons, what a tremendous player he's been for Celtic. Had his ups and downs, particularly in Ange Postecoglou's second season. He had to basically play second fiddle for a lot of it, for a good amount of time for Aaron Moy, because Aaron Moy was so effective. But ever since Brendan Rodgers has came into this side, this Mark II version of Matt O'Reilly has been an absolute joy to watch. I just want to read out what Brendan Rodgers said about the outgoing midfielder and just how much he reveres the player that's moving to Brighton for, I believe it's 26 million plus add-ons. So it'll probably break the £30 million sort of scale, if you call it that. So he was asked what about Matt O'Reilly and how you helped develop him as a player. I think it's everyone's contribution and none's bigger than the player himself. I think when I came in last summer, he obviously never had the goals tally. He never had that end product to his game. I think he probably felt the trust that I'd given him to play lots of minutes and develop his game. And obviously all the coaches do great work with him. But I think for Matt, it's been a real pleasure to work with him. I have to say, as a coach who's coached many players, he did everything he could to be the best player that he could be. His behaviour, his decency all the way through pre-season was absolutely a joy to see. From a young player who's got the riches of the Premier League in sight, he's never lost his focus on Celtic. And even up to the very last day we'd finished, we had a lighter session on his last day, but he stayed out to do that little bit extra with the coaches. He's just been an absolute joy to work with. When you work with a player like that, you want them to succeed. Celtic won't be the end game for some of these players, but it's going to give them so much. And he leaves here now a winner, a better footballer, and ready to play for any team in the world. When you play for Celtic in the pressure, you become a winner. He can go on and play for most teams in the world now. His behaviour was second to none. He's a good guy, and I hope he does well. We continue because that's an opportunity now for some other players to come in here and take that on. some really, really heartfelt words from Brendan Rodgers. And you knew this was going to be a good relationship between the two when that first interview was with Matt O'Reilly in June when he came back to pre-season. All of a sudden, you seen that twinkle in Matt O'Reilly's eye and said, I like this manager. I like the way this manager works. I can get used to this. And you seen that. A player of the year. Cannot believe he didn't win. He didn't sweep the board with his player of the year. But that's a conversation for a different day or a
Get
previous
over
day.
it. Get over
Yeah,
it.
oh,
We'll
I
be
know,
fine.
I
I'm
know.
sure Matt O'Reilly's fine with it. You know what I mean? He's not caring.
30, was it 37 goal contributions in all competitions? You know, that's just incredible for an attacking midfielder. I'll give the floor to you, Tony, for what you want to say about Matt O'Reilly, but I think you'll struggle because I think Brendan Rodgers touched every single base there.
Brendan nailed it, didn't he? I said before that this guy was the epitome of what a Celtic player should be, both on and off the field. This man represented your football club with everything that he had. He was a joy to watch. He was a joy to listen to, and he goes with every Celtic supporter's blessing that he's gone on to, hopefully bigger and better things and play for, any club in the world. And you trust his judgment on that he's gone to a progressive Premier League club in England, in Brighton, and see where it takes him. We have been instrumental in that journey. And I'd also like to say that the previous presenter on this, Sean Martin, and myself called that very early in Matt O'Reilly's tenure. We both said this guy's going to world domination because we felt he was that good. You know what you're watching sometimes. And for 1.5 million to get £30 million from, 20 a Scottish record transfer fee, which will reach the £30 million mark in add-ons, it's a fantastic piece of business from Celtic. Celtic's been good for Matt O'Reilly. Matt O'Reilly's been fantastic for Celtic. We always say it, Ryan, get them at that age where they're desperate to impress, and however long you stay for, give us everything that you've got. And Matt O'Reilly gave Celtic everything they've got, and we are now, we'll be stitched into the fabric of his heart. Celtic, he will be a Celtic supporter till the day he shifts off this mortal coil, and he will always be fondly remembered because of what he gave to the club. Gave you so many brilliant moments, but allied to that, he was everything that a Celtic player should be. He represented your club fantastically, and he made you proud to be a Celtic supporter, and he will make you proud because he will, like Joe Hart, he will spread the good gospel of Celtic whenever and wherever he has the chance. And these guys are the best non-paying ambassadors you can have for your football club. And any young player out there who fancies a crack at something wonderful, come to this football club because we'll provide it. We'll provide that platform. And I think that's what makes Celtic appealing to your likes of your Arnott Enkels, Matthias Bogut's, and that's what I think that Celtic, that's a massive carrot that Celtic can dangle in front of them. And everything you hear and you read about Matt O'Reilly, you just applaud, don't you? And you say thank you for the memories, Absolutely. Matt. Go and take the football world by storm, or even more by storm, and you will now follow and chart his career trajectory. And it's a guy who, lots of people say this, but Brendan said it there, he's genuinely someone who you wish every success and happiness in the world, because he gave Celtic supporters that whilst he was here.
Yeah. Just a very, very good player. And every day you think, thank goodness Riley McGree turned Celtic down, because he was the first choice and Matt O'Reilly was the second choice. That's got to be one of those sliding doors moments. Absolutely brilliant. The way that's worked out for Matt O'Reilly especially has been absolutely tremendous, and he deserves all the success. I will be following his career with great interest and hope that I'll make this prediction, I think, about Matt O'Reilly. He spent 3.5 years at Celtic. I don't think he'll spend that at Brighton. I think he'll be there for a season, maybe two, and then move on to Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea. I think he's that good. I think he will be that good. His trajectory. I think the bigger teams in the Premier League have missed a trick with him. But Celtic have got the fee that they wanted. They got their valuation, and that's the main thing. Maybe a sell-on would have been good in there, but
the bigger teams will pay through the nose for him in 18 months, Ryan, 2 years, if that.
Yeah.
So it's like and Matt O'Reilly himself will notice, and I say this as well, he will not receive that hero worship and adulation from our support anywhere else in the football world. Because you'll still get it from Celtic supporters when they see him.
Yeah, I hope we can speak to him down the line as well. Fingers crossed he'll be one of the guys that we can bring on for a big interview. Joe Hart as well. I would say the two of them have probably got loads of stories to tell about both working under Ange Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers. But yeah, wish him all the best. It looks like that's going to be made official in the next few hours, if not in the next day or so. So the hunt for Celtic's replacement or replacements for Matt O'Reilly continues. On the park, everything's pardon. Celtic haven't conceded a goal in the league yet. They've only conceded one goal in all competitions. The next game ahead is the small matter of Rangers at home in the Glasgow Derby. Before then, we've got the end of the transfer window. We've also got the Champions League draw. So it's going to be a very, very exciting week for Celtic. And we hope that you can join us on the Celtic Way as we document every bit of it as it happens. Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today, both pre and post match. Pleasure to be at the game with you as well. Good to, it's been a great day all in. Just finally, if you want to support us just that little bit more, press that join button on the YouTube page. £2.99 per month, and you can be a YouTube member, and you'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat functions. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you to the over 700 people that are watching this, even though it's been hours since the game finished. We really do appreciate that support. We'll be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow to discuss all things Celtic with Hamish. But until then, have a very good rest of your Sunday evening, and enjoy whatever you're doing. Thanks, guys.